Welcome to Statesman, the podcast where we explore all 50 states with our 5 senses. If you've come here for history, we'll give you some. Most of this is half-baked opinion that is never intended to harm or offend anyone. Love. Humans have been contemplating the nature of love for millennia, and it's reached a conclusion. Some of us have it, and some of us don't. Love can be shared between any two things. A human could love another human. A little kitty could love a human. A human could love a wall, and in some instances, vice versa. But for some, love comes harder than it does for others. And at times, love can feel like you're rolling a ball up a hill that has been designed to never cease its incline. And only when your arms give in strength and the boulder crushes you, your bones and spirit, do you find a moment to consider love. Do you just bite the bullet, skip the chat, and go for the lower rung? Because Lou easy, Anna? We welcome you to Louisiana.
Here come them dang statesman boys again.
I'm your elder statesman, Tim Ferrari, along with my junior statesman, Anthony Rossi.
Geez, Louisiana.
And Stuart Highcar.
Louisiana? How about Tom Hardy-ana, baby?
Whoa, where the hell did that come from?
Well, you know how Easy's in the middle of Louisiana? You heard it in your intro. Well, let's change Easy to Hardy and then bring in Tom.
Oh, I see.
Absolute king shit. This episode is going to be a lot like Tom Hardy. It's going to be bulky. It's going to have an interesting past on MySpace. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun when you least expect it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is going to be king shit, especially since you've been referencing the 45 Kings lately a lot in your social media. Why?
I did. I mentioned it briefly for the Loyola is, of course, in the Sweet 16 now, I think, at the time of recording this. March Madness. That's right. Wow. Unbelievable. The threes, the layups, the dunks. Loyola is heading to the Elite Eight and possibly the Final Four and possibly the dastardly duo and maybe even a championship. And there was recently a video that went sort of viral of a bunch of like white kids at Loyola like dancing around in a public street that's an active street and blocking traffic and like celebrating. And it was spread as like, look how cool, look how fun this school is. And I think a lot of people gave it hate because, you know, arguably a bunch of white kids blocking the street is the same thing as, you know, any protest, and it's treated very differently by media. And that's very, very fair. But at the same time, I wanted to bring up the fact that, you know, I brought home a dang trophy for that school, and they refused to put it in a case.
Right. I agree.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I agree.
And yes, the trophy and the achievement itself maybe doesn't look great for 98% of the students there, but there's at least a couple of weird kids taking a tour who would appreciate seeing that big college improv tournament cup.
Yeah, this is the tee-hee-hee capital of the world.
Right,
Not just
right.
the United States, as we so frequently put it. It's the tee-hee-hee capital of the world itself. And,
That's right.
You know, nothing matters more. That's the ultimate goal. And they wronged you. I do want to point out that specific intersection where those kids were celebrating, completely surrounded by violent and scary police officers who were making arrests during the Black Lives Matter protests specifically.
Right.
So fuck that shit. It was the middle of Sheridan where, you know, we spent a lot of our time roaming up and down to go to Subway and go to Potbelly and go to Demo's Pizzeria. But
A terribly windy street, and especially windy street.
Some people are saying it's the windiest street in Chicago. I don't know if that's true. Personally, I know that Wendy's on Western is pretty good, but, you know, everybody has their own opinion.
I am pretty pissed off about Loyola's performance in March Madness for a specific reason. And it's because I am no longer Loyola University Chicago's signature big man. Of
Cameron
course,
Crutwig
it's true.
has taken your place.
Yeah, Crut has completely crut me out of the picture, and I'm forgotten at Loyola University Chicago.
Right, Anthony. I think we all remember wearing our T-shirts that said "Flossy Rossi" because of the way you used to have handles on the ball between guys' legs. You could get between anything like a good piece of floss, and yet here you are, away from the league. You've forgotten the game. You no longer live and die by the three.
Wow. Well, what's been going on this week, Stu?
Oh, God. What a week it's been. You talked about love in your intro. I've been watching that show on Netflix. It's, very entertaining.
Nice.
A fun little watch with the old GF. But what I really want to talk about today is hugely important. And Camden, this is also my new fave. So get ready. I guess I said it. So Camden, here it is, my new fave.
Hashtag new fave.
Stu's got a new fave.
That's right. A new fave, huh? Every week, a new one. What could it be this week? Well, you guys might have gotten a peek at it when I first joined the call. But recently, I've been having some trouble sleeping. All this working from home so close to my monitor has been putting a real strain on the old peepers. And that's why I decided to block the blue. Hashtag block the blue. I've got blue light blockers, baby.
Wow, and they look really good.
I'm sorry. Was somebody looking for Kid Cudi circa 2009 in fake glasses? I feel like I look like I'm wearing just the frames to 3D glasses or something.
No, you're cute.
Yeah, and they're really reflective, so you look like an anime character in the dark.
That's true. My screen is very reflected in them. And if halfway through this podcast, you guys are going to see some disgusting images flash across it because I have to quench my thirst. But yeah, so I got these glasses and now I'm wearing them when I watch TV at night and when I work on my computer. And to be honest, it makes my eyes feel a little bit better, which is kind of nice. I don't know if it works for the sleeping, but look, the amount of numbers and digits I'm getting taking customer service calls wearing these bad boys, they can hear it over the phone that I have the confidence of blue blockers on.
Wow, that's pretty dope, man. Congrats.
Thanks. Thank you so much,
Goddamn.
Anthony. Anthony, of course, you, another man wearing glasses, but what have you seen in the past week?
What have I seen? I watched the Doughboys live stream. Shockingly, I am into other podcasts besides our own. I would actually say that our own podcast is one of my least favorite ones to listen to, specifically because of my performance week in and week out. But no, it was fun. Yeah, I really haven't seen a lot else. I have been getting out on my back porch a little bit lately and just kind of taking deep breaths of fresh air for an hour or two after work. And it really just helps break up time and restore vitamin D in my body. And I got to tell you, it's really grand to have nice weather, huh?
Anthony, you so grand. Yeah.
Anthony, you're practically glowing over there with all this nice weather.
Oh my God, your skin is olive. You look like a Mediterranean god. I do think you live right across from a big park. Have you ever thought about going over there and just laying with a couple of masks on and getting a badass tan?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a little windy to do that lately, but I will start getting over there soon, especially because it's a dog park. So I get to scope out a lot of the local dogs, and I think that's really great. That's one of my favorite hobbies, is just kind of seeing what kind of dogs are in the neighborhood.
Hey, we all love a delicious pet, and I will say, I think somebody has a new delicious pet to talk about. Tim.
Yeah,
I do. I have a new cat. Its name is Cordicus when I'm angry. And it's afraid of the air conditioner. And it's really cute, but it's also kind of sad.
Or as Tom Hardy might say, the aircon. So your cat, you just got him. Is he getting attuned to the apartment?
He's sleeping right at my feet. And he follows me around. And he really does follow me around because whenever I leave the apartment, I'm thinking about him wherever I go.
Oh my God. Wow. And I'm so thankful that the cat gets to be with you for this record, because we don't want you to have any empty nest syndrome on mic. I want you to feel fully fulfilled when we're recording.
No, it's a fully invasive thought. This cat gives me a lot of anxiety, actually.
Well, could you just, for us and for the listeners, we can't see the cat in the frame, and obviously don't wake up the cat. But would you mind just dropping us a little description, perhaps in song?
Sure. Perhaps in song? Okay. My cat is cute, and he is quite thin. He's got nice shoulders, and my name is Tim. The owner is me, and the cat's name... And that's how it ends.
Wow. It ends on a staggered, when you...
Yep.
Did you forget the name of the cat?
No, I meant to go somewhere else. The cat's fur is something else, but I said name instead. Classic Broca's area mistake.
What color is this cat? Give us the description.
No, we learned about its shoulders. I think we know everything we need to know. Let's get our guest in here.
Yeah, I agree. He's a Chicago fella. Please welcome Jon Dale. Wow, really sorry you had to listen through that, Jon.
No, that was great. I mean, I haven't really talked to friends in like a year, so it was just nice to be a fly on the wall.
Well, Jon, let me ask. I mean, you haven't talked to friends in a year, but as I understand, you're living with a couple of people who are more than friends, family.
Yeah, well, my first friends in a way, my parents.
Wow.
Or were they ever my friends?
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a question that most of us are asking at our age right now.
Are my parents my best friends or my first friends? I don't know how to answer that, Do your best friends, bring up, these things that have been traumatizing you since you were born?
Maybe.
I would say sometimes that's yes.
I think that's very true. I think sometimes friends can help you sort of come up and really face those things in your life that you sometimes want to push under the rug. But best friends pick the rug up, help you sweep.
That's so true.
Jon, what have you been up to lately? I know, you've been kind of laying low, and I'm just wondering, what have you been watching or consuming or doing that's helped you kill time during this pandemic?
Well, for most of the pandemic, I've been unemployed because I worked in the service industry, and it was really hard to fill time when I was unemployed. When you have the whole day at your disposal, it's actually awful.
Oh, yeah.
But now I have a 9-to-5, and what have I been watching? I just started this show called Snowfall.
Oh, hell yeah.
You guys seen this show?
Yeah, on FX, the crack drama of the 80s. I've heard it's very good.
Wow, serving white, and perhaps white is the color of Tim's cat, maybe. We'll never know.
Anthony, stop asking. We don't need to know that, all right? Think about how wide his shoulders are coming in and out of a room. But so you're watching Snowfall. We're just getting out of the season where snow fell. Are you excited for the summer here in Chicago, Jon?
Of course I'm excited. To me, there's really nothing better than this weather. That's going to come soon. I'd say right now this weather kind of sucks, but I think we're all looking forward to a little bit of warm weather, a little bit of sun, a little bit of time to maybe see a friend outside. Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to that.
Well, you're also from a place where the weather is kind of stereotypically disgusting and swampy. And so what is that place? What state did we bring you on to talk about today?
Well, I should clear the air here that I was not born in Louisiana.
Sure, yes. But you do have connections?
Oh, I do have a connection there, but I just wanted to make that biography clear. Because I think that there are going to be a lot of people tuning in to hear me talk, and I don't want them to, get the wrong ideas, about me, or if anyone's going to be, making my Wikipedia after this, I don't want them to be putting in false information that I'm going to have to go back in and tag to change.
Understood. Yeah. And obviously we want all of our listeners to be on the same page about where you come from, how much time you actually spent in Louisiana, and a lot of the questions that you can answer about it. So do you want to just give us like a quick I guess, a brief breakdown of your geographical life. Where'd you grow up? When did you head to New Orleans, and why?
That's so great. I think that's a great question, Stuart.
Thank you.
You know, I was born here in Chicago, which is part of the state of Illinois. But for college, I went down to the Big Easy, New Orleans. And, you know, you could say that I formed a lot of who I am there. So while I wasn't born there, maybe I was born there in maybe a more figurative sense. You guys understand what I'm saying with that?
Oh, absolutely. So did you only live there throughout your college years and then got the fuck out immediately? Or did you kind of linger at all?
Oh, I lingered. I lingered for a year afterward. New Orleans is a great city to linger in because the cost of living is low and everyone is a chiller.
Damn.
There's not really any imperative to do anything or make anything of your life like there is in maybe other cities. And that's nice, especially in that post-grad malaise.
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, would you say it's a good city if I was like a downtrodden trumpet player? Maybe I could go there and like kick around the streets for a year or two.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that the streets are really made for kicking. You know, all of the sidewalks are really messed up there. So you can really just like kind of really kick. Literally, you can kick the street in a way that you can't hear. But, you know, also more in a metaphorical sense, which I think is what you were getting at. But yes, no, I think that it's a perfect place for that.
So the stereotype about New Orleans from the outside is that it's a party city. Tourism there, a lot of it revolves around just getting as fucked up as possible at all hours of every day throughout the week. So I have to ask you, as somebody who actually lived there, what was your experience like? What was your relationship with tourism? What was your relationship with drinking and partying?
It's funny because I will joke with my friends a lot of the time. That's most of what we do. But one joke that I will say to them is, you know, I wasn't really the stereotypical New Orleanian because I don't really like drinking. It gives me a headache. I don't really like hot weather. I don't really like live music. I don't really like parades. But, you know, I still really enjoyed it there. So I think there's something there for everyone.
What did you enjoy? It seems, or at least it seems like everything you just pointed out was certainly the stereotypical parts that I know about New Orleans. So, like, what were the little corners and nooks and crannies that Jon Dale really clung to as a boy?
Sure. Well, I really started enjoying the history, which is maybe not as cool. But you know, it's there. What else? I liked biking around. It's a very small city. It's very you can get from one side to the other I mean, you know, good luck getting from one side of Chicago to the other. Am I right? But New Orleans is not.
Gotcha. I feel like I at least I've been to New Orleans. Anthony, I know you've been to New Orleans. Tim, have you ever visited the Big Easy?
No, I've never gotten the opportunity to go down there. But I have heard of a train that you can take down from Chicago to Louisiana, and you get fucked up the entire time. It's like a 20-hour
on the train, or like you get like beat up. What do you mean?
No, like on Amtrak. You know, you like buy a bunch of booze before you get on the train, and it's a sleeper, so you stay up for 20 hours and you party. Ugh. You know, or however many hours you're able to party.
I've taken that train, Tim.
Oh,
yeah, it's called the City of New Orleans.
Was it a dun 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 dun? I dun dun.
Was it, John? Was it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, I would say, an astute summation of what it is. It's definitely a crazy train.
Sick.
So, did you ever have the opportunity to spend any time outside of New Orleans, or were you just kind of chilling around your school? Did you ever like travel around the state?
Not really around the state. I mostly stuck to New Orleans.
Okay, so would you say that this episode should, although it is already labeled and listeners at home can see it as Louisiana 2, you almost want to feel like call this maybe just like New Orleans 1?
Well, New Orleans and Louisiana, they're very different places.
Yeah, and I wonder if we'll be able to kind of take a look at the differences between the larger state and the city. But I think, I don't know. Anthony, Tim, do you guys have any other questions for Don? Specifically, there's one about the end of his life that I need to know.
We definitely have to know this question, John. At the end of your life, you're a brittle old man. Yeah, you're flaking off of the earth, and you get to choose where you want to die. Do you go back to New Orleans and decide to die there?
This is where I choose to die?
Yes.
Well, what am I? Am I just dying of old age?
Anything you want. You have to pick that too, and tell us how.
That is a. That's a great question. Well, I think no, I don't want to die in New Orleans because when I do finally die around, I think I'm probably going to die in my 200s or so. I think New Orleans is going to be underwater by then. And I've never been really, I've never done scuba before and it kind of freaks me out. So I think that would be a little silly. But, I have thought about it'd be nice to move back to New Orleans in my old age before it does get finally swept under the ocean.
Interesting.
So I wouldn't die there, but I'd like to spend maybe my sunset years there.
Yeah, only to be maybe sent away to another state to be put down. I understand that energy.
Yeah. I don't think I know where I want to die yet. And I know that doesn't answer your question, but I'm leaving it up to God.
Bless up.
And I trust that God's going to take me somewhere that I haven't been before.
Yeah, bless up.
And he's going to take you on a All
right, well, let's move on with the body of the podcast and explore Louisiana with all five senses. But before we do that, I believe Stuart has the game.
That's right. Guys, Louisiana. Wow. A mystical state where massive collections of cultures and histories mix and breed to create a uniquely American mutt that we all know and love. But in this game, we're going to focus on one aspect in particular, the festive celebration of Mardi Gras. Of course, we've all heard of it. And to do it, we'll need the help of some famous folks and successful businesses from the state of Louisiana. Now, as we all know, Mardi Gras is the celebration around Fat Tuesday in March that features festive floats, incredible costumes, heavy drinking, and a heck of a lot of beads. A nearly month-long opportunity for New Orleans and Louisiana as a whole to show off their culture and history. So why don't we do the same? Let's get ready to play Float or Boat by You Decide. In this game, I will randomly give you a famous celebrity and a random famous brand from the state of Louisiana. Then you have to creatively design a Mardi Gras float for the pair. Once you present your idea, I'll confer with Judge Camden and decide if your idea is a float or a bloat. So float is good, bloat is bad, and you'll hear some sound effects where whichever one you get, we'll get to those. But so does anyone have any questions before we start the game?
No, I'm ready to play.
Ready.
This sounds fun.
Let's do this. Sponsored by Tums.
Tom? Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay, sponsored by Tums. When your tum-tum is feeling bum-bum, take a Tums. All right, let's get into it, Tim. You're going to be going first on this, bud. So pick a number between 1 and 6.
My always lucky number 2.
Interesting. Okay. Tim, your celebrity and, I guess pick another number between 1 and 6. You can pick 2 again if you want. I want to give you another random thing.
I will pick the sturdiest number of them all, 3.
Interesting. Okay, so
I don't know if I agree with that characterization of 3 as sturdy.
John,
Yeah,
a triangle.
Well, we could go into the sides of this triangle.
And sure, I've been in a lot of sexual situations where 3 is incredibly unstable. It's not working out. It's bad. No one's having a good time. But in this particular scenario, Tim, choosing number 3 got you a float based on Raising Cane's Chicken. It's all bread and fingers, baby. Of course, a Louisiana brand. And then choosing number 2 got you the celebrity quarterback and pizza freak Peyton Manning. So you have to design a float where Peyton Manning has something to do with Raising Cane's chicken.
Absolutely. And this one kind of falls into my lap because I used to eat Raising Cane's all the time when I used to live in Rogers Park. And so we're going to have Peyton Manning, who has he's getting into his throwing position. He's got the hand behind his head, left or right. I don't know what hand he throws with. And he's about to launch this ball. And Cane, the dog, is on the other side. The mascot dog for Raising Cane's is in the air and about to catch the ball.
Wow. Okay. So sort of like a collie catching a Frisbee. But wait, is he throwing a ball or what's he throwing?
Oh, he's throwing beads, baby.
Okay.
He's throwing a big ball of beads.
A big ball of beads right at a dog, huh?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else on that float other than the two of them? Any decorations?
Well, of course, we have the stadium, and that's around these two players. It's a small stadium, and it's called the Raising Cane's Stadium. And there's got classic yard lines, etc.
Yard lines, etc. Well, I think I've heard enough. Camden, you and I are going to be judges here. Tim's idea for Peyton Manning throwing a big ball of beads at a dog who's suspended in the air inside Raising Cane's arena. How do you feel about this? Is this a float or a bloat?
Just for some clarity, this is actually Peyton Manning and the actual living, breathing dog.
Great question.
No. Macrame.
Okay.
This is all macrame or paper mache.
Thank God.
And they're not looking great. It's made locally.
Oh, okay.
I truly don't know how you could make Peyton Manning's head any bigger, so it's going to be an interesting challenge.
An interesting piece of work, but Camden, how are you feeling?
Yeah, with that clarification, I feel really good about this one.
I agree. I think the idea for Peyton to be playing the sport we know him for to a dog that we all know and love. I mean, personally, Tim, I feel comfortable giving you a fat float. Camden? Great. Okay.
Wow,
okay. Camden, we're going to come to you next, buddy.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So, first, I'll need you to pick a number between 1 and 5.
5.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Good luck on this one. And now pick another number between 1 and 5.
The other pole, 1.
Wow. Okay. So, and these kind of link up pretty well. The company you got by choosing number 1 is the internet and communication company CenturyLink. So pretty fun. That'll be a fun one to play around with. But your celeb, this is where it really gets crazy. By choosing number 5, you got the lab worker, cyber hacker, and goth girl from NCIS, Polly Perrette.
Nice.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So what's your float?
Okay. I'm going to say 100 years in the lab is the theme of the float. and she's examining links of genetic code that are all made out of giant twisted beads. And it is actually her. And the whole entire float is laid out like a classic lab situation. It's very sterile. It's the most sterile float in the entire parade. And they do not acknowledge anyone outside of it. It's a very contained, sterile environment that's focused on its work, which is its study. And of course, as it drives by, I don't really know what CenturyLink does, but I guess little hard drives fall out of the back for people to grab as souvenirs.
Oh, okay, cool. And those are just falling out onto the street?
Yeah, they just are left behind like a snail trail, and you have to dive in and grab them before the next float comes, lest you be crushed.
Right. A lot of crushed hard drives, I'm sure, on that parade float. Well, it sounds great. Camden, obviously we need to judge. Do you think this is really capturing the spirit of the goth hacker lab worker from NCIS?
I'm getting physical anxiety from the thought of dozens of solid state drives being just crushed in the New Orleans streets.
And they're just falling out the back of the float.
And then the debris of that thereby being sludged away in the famous New Orleans muck that's left over after a weekend of parties. Up until that point, Anthony was doing really great, I think.
I have to agree. I think the beads as genetic code won me over. So, Anthony, as long as Camden gives me the okay, I think you deserve a fat float. All right. Jon, it's finally your turn. Are you ready?
I sure am.
All right. Pick a number between 1 and 4.
I'm going to pick what I see as one of the sturdiest numbers, which is 4.
Okay. And that would...
How? Where are you getting that metric?
Sir, have you ever seen perhaps a table or a chair?
4 legs, a horse. Yes.
A horse.
Jon, now...
Horses are living tables.
Nature's table, horses.
Exactly.
All right. So, Jon, now pick another number between 1 and 4.
Okay, and I'm going to pick 2 here. Another, what I consider to be a stable number. And
Smart.
I don't even think these are really...
Hey,
okay.
no, great idea. And with that choice, you that number 2 choice, you got the page turner and printing company Pelican Publishing. Interesting, sort of a literary company. And I mean, you're going to love this celeb you got. By choosing number 4, you got Shazam himself. Get the chuck out of here. It's Zachary Levi. So
Zachary Levi.
What's your flow?
And that is someone who I just want to make clear that's someone who I know.
For sure.
Well, I think, one of my favorite parts about Mardi Gras floats are floats that do political satire.
Okay.
And I think that is, one of the most fun parts about Mardi Gras is that, we kind of get to hyperbolize our nation and our cities. Mm-hmm. And we kind of get to make fun of where we live. So I think there would be, the float would center on 2, Joe Biden and Donald Trump kissing.
Whoa.
And I think probably Nancy Pelosi is also in there. She's kind of gawking a little bit.
Okay. Maybe she's clapping.
That's very funny. I didn't even think about that.
Jesus. Ouch.
Yeah, and maybe throw in some other presidents just for fun. Maybe Nixon, maybe FDR. Mm-hmm. He's in his wheelchair.
For sure, yeah.
He's clapping too. I think that could be really funny.
Yeah, maybe he's clapping back.
Yeah. And then of course, and I don't want to forget who this is based on, which is Zachary Levi.
Right.
And we all know him. We all know him from what he's famous for. Mm-hmm. So he's doing that really on the float in kind of that classic way that he does.
Yeah. Okay.
And then just to kind of wrap it all up, this float is all within a larger float, which is all contained in a book.
Just when I thought you couldn't bring me farther into the inception, I hit another level. The book, the story, the president's kissing within the book. Camden, you have always loved political satire, but is this float gone too far?
I live for the intrigue and the drama of political satire. Jon was served a pretty rough hand with this one, and I think he did really well with that considered.
Wow. Okay. Well, and I completely agree. Zachary Levi, obviously not the most famous of people, and Pelican Publishing Company, pretty lame company to get stuck with as well. So, Jon, you did a great job considering those things, but unfortunately, this is not a merciful game, and this is a game with very rough rules, and the Judge Camden does know that. His gavel is hefty, and he must lift it only once. So, Camden...
I'm getting carpal tunnel.
Me, personally, I've got to give this one a bloat.
Beat the bloat.
Do you like that?
It hurts, but I knew it was coming. Now, can I guess, is Zachary Levi, was he in the TV show Heroes?
No, good guess though. No, you're probably thinking of Milo Ventimiglia.
I may
All
have.
right, Tim, are you ready? I've got one more for everybody, and then we can move on.
Oh,
And we'll go sort of speed challenge through the second round.
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, Tim, pick a number between 1 and 3.
The most sturdy number of them, John. 3.
Ah, yes. Very good. Okay, and now pick a number again between 1 and 3.
3 again, of course, the sturdiest one.
Perfect. Okay, so this is a fun combo. With your second 3, you got the creamy glass with the tight lid, Yoo-Hoo chocolate drink. Based in Louisiana, you'll enjoy that one. And your celebrity with the number 3 pick, you got the man who refuses to eat out his wife, DJ Khaled. Born in Louisiana, how will you combine these brands for a float?
Okay, well, both of them are there. The Yoo-Hoo Bunny and DJ Khaled are both there. One of them is dressed up as the Yoo-Hoo Bunny, and DJ Khaled is not real. He is macrameed.
Okay.
DJ Khaled is macrameed onto a chocolate wave of milk. It's on like a Yoo-Hoo stadium of yard lines, etc. And the Yoo-Hoo Bunny is doing like a hang 10 on the surfboard over DJ Khaled on this chocolate wave.
Wow. Okay. A beautiful, beautiful float idea. And Tim, I would have given you a fat ass float if it weren't for the fact that the bunny you're thinking of is from Nesquik.
I was just going to say.
No.
That's right, my
There's
friend.
no Yoo-Hoo Bunny?
There is no Yoo-Hoo mascot of any kind. Although in my spec script for Atlanta, we do get into a little bit more of that Yoo-Hoo sideline. So I apologize, Tim, but you have been DQ'd in this round because of that brand disloyalty.
I can't even get a bloat?
All right, fine. Camden, give him a bloat.
Beat the bloat.
Great.
I'll take a Tums.
That's, well, interesting. Anthony, we'll give you this next one. Choose between 1 and 2.
1.
Okay, very, very cool. I just realized this also means that John is stuck with whatever options he gets. So, Anthony, choose between 1 and 2.
1 again.
Oh boy, this is a very, very fun combo. Your brand from Louisiana, there's a bottle on every table. It's Tabasco sauce. And of course, your celebrity, it's actor and cult leader Jared Leto. Combine the two for Mardi Gras fun.
Okay, this one is a hell of a time here, and I'm going to call it Jared Leto's Spice of Life. And this is, I'm actually concerned about having Jared Leto around this kind of crowd because I don't want him to usurp it with his influence and wind up taking them all back to his island. And of course, that's not Avery Island, home of the Tabasco factory. That's a separate island somewhere else. So I'm going to have, of course, a depiction of Jared Leto's Joker, his most famous role. 30 Seconds to Mars is blaring from the edges of the float.
Okay.
And essentially, this is a statue of Jared Leto completely submerged in a giant pool of Tabasco that every once in a while it's timed to raise out and it drips down like blood. And of course, that Joker, just like in those still shots from the Snyder Cut, is a Jesus figure. So crown of thorns, no, crown of peppers, like a wreath of pepper plants. And on a cross made up of 2 giant bottles.
Wow. Just when I thought this podcast couldn't get any more heretical, we hear this nonsense. I'll be honest, Camden, I love this float beginning to end. It has all my favorite things. Hot sauce, the Joker, a pool, everything so interesting. Camden, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, with Jared Leto being up on a Tabasco bottle cross, it means that his wrists are nailed down and he can't famously put the finger guns up to his temples, which I would have preferred.
Right.
However, you know, that's just a personal taste thing. That would have been my preference, but I recognize that this is an excellent idea.
Yeah, I will say, Anthony, if you were just going for Jesus imagery, there are, of course, those depictions of Jesus on a lot of stained glass windows where he is putting both of his hands to his head like two guns and screaming. And those are like kind of badass if you ever needed any inspiration. But personally, this thing's fat from front to back. I gotta give it a fucking float. All right, Jon. This is the last one, buddy, so I need you to really come hard, okay?
I'm going to try.
Thank you. All right. You unfortunately do not get to choose your choices, but they have been successfully randomized due to Tim and Anthony choosing the others.
And, I think, not to get, too deep here, but we could talk about whether we have, free will or not. But in many ways, I think that these choices were made for us already.
Preordained,
so
right. Yeah,
I welcome that.
A lot of people do think that Jared Leto's Joker has designed this all. Even his own death was part of the plan. But let me ask you this, Jon. Your brand from Louisiana is a baby toy manufacturer, Crown Crafts. And of course, your celebrity is the American psycho and talk show host herself, Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh,
can you combine these two
wow.
things for a successful Mardi Gras float?
Man, there really are not any companies from Louisiana.
Not a lot. No, sir.
Okay, well, let's see. Toy company, Ellen DeGeneres. I mean, it seems like a slam dunk, pretty easy because, when I think about Ellen, it's the same thing as when I think about toys, a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I'm imagining that we are in the studio, in Ellen's studio. And it's actually empty because I don't know if you saw the news, but people do not watch her show anymore.
Right.
Because, I don't need to get more political. I was political in my last one. But okay, so if you can imagine this, the studio audience is empty. And instead of people sitting in the chairs, we have dolls and we have Legos and we have silly putty, things of that nature. And they're all clapping and they're all loving it. And Ellen's laughing and maybe she has a guest. Maybe it's like The Rock or someone famous. And you can tell that they're really, they're gabbing in a fun way that's like, conversational, but also, friendly.
Right.
And
this is a float?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a float.
Okay.
And, we zoom out a little bit, and this has actually, all been within like a very large, those, I'm blanking on the name, but those like Barbie dream house type things.
Sure, like a dollhouse.
Like a dollhouse. Yeah, a dollhouse. And then we have some even larger children. I mean, they're huge kids because it's a float. Maybe like 30-foot tall toddlers, and they are, they're laughing, and maybe they can even look like Ellen if you like that.
I love that. Hold on a fucking second, because I was a million miles away from you, Jon. I was stuck in the middle of deep space, gasping for air as you described Ellen's studio audience made of clapping toys. But the second you mentioned 30-foot tall toddlers with Ellen's face and possibly haircut as well, and I'm sure that includes Ellen's neck, which I gotta get a better look at. I think, Jon, you've described a very fun float, but Camden, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think the only thing I don't like about this was your assessment of that just now, Stu. Oh, God.
All right. Well, I guess you agree with me, so it's a damn float, baby. All right. And that is the end of the game. Tim, Jon, you guys tied with 2 floats and 2 bloats. And Anthony, you are our winner and Mardi Gras king with two big old floats. How does it feel?
It feels great. Hey, Jon, if you don't know who Zachary Levi is, it sounds like you need to do a Shazam search.
What even? What? What?
All right, well, we got to move on with the rest of the podcast where we explore Louisiana with our 5 senses. And to start, Jon, I have a list of 10 iconic foods from Louisiana, and you have to tell me if you've had the food, if you like the food, and then throwing it back to 1776, verifying if this food is iconic or if it's
In a
naconic.
crazy turn of events, putting the taste segment before the smell segment.
My God!
Really, really incredible inversion of the format.
It's New Orleans, baby.
Oh, he was Chuck. He was Chuck from Chuck.
Oh, yes, he's Chuck. Sorry. I think you just saw. Yeah, that's why I said you need to get the Chuck out of here when I introed him. But maybe that, was too good of a joke. I have to simplify.
I no, that's for sure too good of a joke. I mean, I'm laughing at it now, only in hindsight, as you can hear.
Tim, what were we doing?
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, John, no worries. It's okay. I'm going to just repeat what I just said.
Oh, right, the foods. Yeah, no,
Are you good? Do you know the premise?
you're gonna name foods, and I'm gonna say if I've had them or not.
And then verify if this food is iconic or if it's naconic.
Okay, yeah, I'm all plugged in, Tim. Let's do this thing.
Awesome. Well, this list comes from LouisianaTravel.com/articles/Louisiana's-famous-dishes. A short one this time.
Ooh, hyphens.
And to start, John, can you tell me if beignets are iconic or naconic?
Oh man, definitely iconic.
What is a beignet?
Beignet is a donut. It is served most famously at Café Du Monde in the French Quarter.
Oh.
And they're just little donuts, and they got powdered sugar on them. And I don't know what naconic means.
Naconic is the opposite of iconic, throwing back to 1776, I or nay.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
John, to be perfectly frank, you are the first person I think to ask that. And I think I somehow am blown away that some guests understand what Tim means by throwing it back to 1776.
This one's for the eyes, this one's for the nays. Come on, guys.
And while we're explaining jokes, Zachary Levi was Shazam in the movie Shazam.
Well, beignets, are they iconic or naconic, John?
They're iconic. Can I add a third option? Maybe iconic, naconic, or hairy-conic, another New Orleans native.
Wow!
He's done it, folks. My God.
Wow, okay, John. Well, it seems like you like beignets, so we're going to move on to the next one. A po' boy, is it iconic, naconic, or hairy-conic?
Oh, definitely iconic. And I'm just gonna whisper something in my normal voice here. I am probably gonna be saying iconic to all of these because what can I say? I love food.
Yes, food. And nothing more fun than a po' boy that goes right along with the fin boy and the ray boy.
So, where's your favorite place to get a po' boy? Is it something that you get off the street, or how is it served?
I mean, a po' boy is not every region I think has its own sandwich name, subs or heroes, or I'm sure there are others too that fit into this. So it's really just a sandwich. It usually comes, you get it dressed with mayo and lettuce and tomato. Maybe I'll get some fried shrimp on it, or there was this place by an old apartment I was at that was a hamburger po' boy that was just a bunch of cut up hamburger pieces, which was awesome when I wanted to get a migraine 2 hours later. But I love po' boys. They're cheap and they're very good.
Anthony, Stu, you got any opinions on the po' boys?
Yeah, personally, I gotta put them in the hairy conic junior category on this one for the same reasons. Cheap, but really good.
One of the first meals I had upon arriving in New Orleans was a shrimp po' boy, and it immediately knocked my socks off. And I'm a big po' boy fan. I will say that specific type of bread that they use, that French bread, it's not always done great. And I think that is the major flop everywhere that's trying to imitate a po' boy, especially in Chicago. But when you get it straight from the source, there's nothing like it. And it's just simple and delicious. So I'm a big sandwich head.
Yeah. And what if I was to say Tinky Winky boy, Lala boy, Dipsy boy, and po' boy?
Whoa.
Tim looked furious.
It really took me a while to see where you're going with that one.
For any of my fellow Snowfall watchers, we can also fit the season 3 character Man Boy into that little fun bit that Stu was doing. Cool. And, if you're a snowfall watcher, then, holler at me and we can talk about it later. Anyway. Just doing a little personal press here.
Nice.
DM him.
All right. Well, moving on. How about this one? Muffuletta.
Ooh. I'm gonna say this one is definitely Harry Connick. This is so a Muffuletta is cool because it kind of has a bit of a Chicago equivalent with it's kind of like a jardinera. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with jardinera, but it's got peppers and carrots and I think celery and it's very good. I wouldn't call it personally as iconic as a po' boy, but it's definitely Harry Connick to me.
Definitely sounds Harry Connick. Any sauciness, that for me is Harry Connick.
Wait, so is it like a topping or is it like a little like pickled salad?
It's a topping that is a pickled salad. I think it's mostly olive actually. Now that I recall, and it's usually with some deli meats and cheese.
So the muffuletta is a sandwich, not a type of meat.
Correct that it's a sandwich.
I'm a sandwich head, so I automatically am interested.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I did hear you saying that earlier, yeah.
All right, for this next one, king cake.
Oh my God. And this is definitely, I think this is iconic to me. King cake is cool because it's a lot like normal cake, except it just has a little bit of that New Orleans flair to it.
Okay.
If I could go along just a bit, king cake is served over Mardi Gras, and the cool thing about king cake to me is there will be hidden amidst the dough and icing a small plastic baby, and the baby, if you are to cut the piece that has the baby in it, or at least this is how I've experienced it in my time in New Orleans, you would have to then buy the next king cake if you were to get the baby. I think the baby is supposed to represent Jesus, but of course I'm not a Christian person, so most of that stuff is lost on me. But I enjoy the pastry aspect, of course.
I sometimes consider myself to be the baby of the pod.
Did you ever wind up with the baby cut?
I did. Back in my when I went to Tulane, I worked in the English department, and we had some king cake, and I did once get the baby, and I remember shaking my fist and laughing and going, "Oh, you guys," to my various coworkers.
Okay. Wow. Well, you know what? Something cool I learned about this cake is that it's got 3 different colors on its icing: purple for justice. Faith symbolizes, green symbolizes faith, and gold symbolizes power. Do those colors represent Louisiana or New Orleans? Are they iconic attributes?
I think that they're probably Naconic, because I this is the 4th thing, so I probably need to start categorizing something as Naconic.
Oh, I see.
I first learned about the baby cake situation or the king cake situation because of one of your baseball hats.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. The baby hat.
That was, yeah.
Care to explain the hat?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, New Orleans has a AAA baseball team that was in 2016 or 17 was changed from the Zephyrs, which is kind of a boring, useless name, to it was decided via popular vote to become the Baby Cakes, which is a great name and very regionally specific. And the logo was this really, because you know how like mascots have to be angry looking, it's not like just a wildcat, it's like a mean wildcat, like shaking his fist or whatever.
Yeah, grumpy cat.
So this was a very angry looking baby, which is funny because he also looked like a really old man in the way that, babies and old men kind of can look similar.
The beginning and end of life. What can you say,
Exactly.
I was just going to say before we move on from it, justice, faith, and power sounds like maybe we should stop putting little plastic babies in those cakes and start putting little plastic Zack Snyders.
Yes.
wow,
Okay.
nice.
Yes. 100%. And I do believe actually that the New Testament is sort of like Jesus's cut.
Nice.
Thanks. Does that match up, Tim?
Yep. You know what? For this next couple of items, we're just going to speed round through these because I have a feeling that this list has really knocked it out of the park. So I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be pronouncing this right, but crawfish etouffee.
Etouffee if we're French.
And in this instance, we are French, Camden. So you're totally right there.
Cool.
It's getting the iconic. It's great. It's just I don't even know what the fuck it is. It's crawfish and it tastes good.
Fuck
A stew of roux. That's fun. A stew of roux.
All right. Well, you'll be ruining this stew. You don't hurry up under the next food.
And what about this stew? Gumbo. Is it iconic, naconic, or is it hairy-conic?
Good question.
Oh, wow. I think it's hairy-conic because, it's just such a beautiful metaphor besides the food itself, Is America a gumbo?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Maybe think just something to think about.
Shit.
I don't have the answers. I don't think any of us do.
Oh, well, what about boudin?
Oh, boudin. That's going to get hairy-conic for me. It's not iconic because it is, I guess this isn't fair because I think there have been previous pork items, but it's not kosher. So it gets the hairy-conic, not the iconic. But it's still good.
I see.
Is Harry Connick Jr. himself kosher? Does anyone here know?
Why would you eat?
No, not to eat
I have
him.
no idea.
Does he? Okay.
I have no idea. But this next food, andouille.
Hairy-conic again.
Harry.
Oh, yeah, you can't
Beautiful pork sausage.
God, so yummy.
And this next one, jambalaya.
Why'd you say it like that?
Just for a little bit of switching things around, I'm going to say it's naconic. But I loved that delivery, Tim.
Ouch.
Wow. Well, I bet the restaurants that serve jambalaya wish they had better delivery. On to the next one, pralines.
Ooh, iconic. Oh, my God.
I didn't even know that this was a Louisiana-specific thing.
Oh, yeah. It is. Maybe I'll be the one to speak on this because I am a fan. I became a fan of them after I went to New Orleans. I'd never really heard of them before, and then I got them there and was like, holy heck, these things are yummy. And I'll be honest, much like son of New Orleans, I love the praline, Lil Wayne. I think pralines are delicious. I think they're iconic, but John, how do you feel?
No, I love them. Pralines to me really itch that or scratch that itch. Yeah, I'm a former fat kid, so I imagine a praline and my heart starts beating really fast, and I start to just get really antsy and in a way that I feel comfortable with because that's kind of my emotional terrain. And pralines really do it for me.
Great ice cream mix-in. That's like a top tier ice cream mix-in.
Damn. I'm just thinking about mix-ins. Tim, you go. I'll be thinking about mix-ins over here.
Well, John, is there anything that this list is forgetting off of its, iconic list of foods from Louisiana?
No, I was just going to say, because we already got crawfish etouffee, but, crawfish on its own, going to a crawfish boil, that's really something else. And I hope that everyone can experience that one day. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I had the delightful experience of going to specifically one place that just dropped a bunch of newspaper on the table and slammed down about a mountain of shrimp, or not shrimp, the crawdads, crawfish. And you just pop them, you suck them. You get I guess what you really are sucking is the brain juice out of it, but it is so delicious. The broth that it comes in is great. It's all just so splendid.
I agree completely. I think crawdads are maybe one of the best Cajun foods out there. And I will say, I think it'd be pretty funny if there was a shirt that had the Godfather logo, but it said the Craw Father. Because crawdad, but
nice.
father works. But then the strings are held by a claw or something,
John, did you ever dare to eat gator while you were out there? That's kind of a thing.
Yeah, kind of. I think I had a gator sausage once, and it tasted just like any other sausaged meat.
Damn, wow. Brutal. Sounds pretty naconic. Tim, how many other things are on this list?
We've already gone through all 10 iconic foods from Louisiana, at least from this list, the louisianatravel.com/articles/Louisiana's-famous-dishes. But we've got to rate this segment out of something, and I think I have it.
Ooh.
Out of the 138 minutes of the runtime of Shazam, starring
Zachary Levi, baby.
starring Zachary Levi, how many minutes does this segment achieve?
Oh, 137, definitely, because I'm not interested in the credits. Or I guess so 136 maybe.
Wow. Tim, congrats.
Wow, I got over the runtime, 5 minutes over the runtime. So we finished the movie and the credits, and then we stayed in the movie theater for 5 minutes
Now,
longer.
is it
That's
132?
awesome.
Is it 138? How long is this movie?
Oh, did I say 138? I'm at 132.
Well, we got to stick with...
Then I'm, okay.
No, sorry, John,
Well,
your original...
My answer remains,
Yeah.
yes, no, you're right, yeah.
Wow.
I think that's a fair score because to me, this is the best run of foods that we've ever had this segment. And I have to say, it is it's deserved. Like this a group of foods is absolutely iconic. It's so specific to the state, and they are all delicious and interesting, and you can get them at all of these different places. There are some that feel very touristy, but the best places in New Orleans specifically that I was able to go were the places where you felt like you were kind of just in someone's house. Like they were just bringing you it straight out of their kitchen, and it just absolutely incredible run of foods.
Yeah.
Props to you, Louisiana.
Yeah, New Orleans and Louisiana as a whole are such like this big mixing pot of different cultures that all of their food is so unique to only them. So like I do think that most of the food on that menu is going to be iconic, even if it's not your favorite food, because it's the only place you can really get that food.
Well, mixing hot or a gumbo, we've got to move on to our next regular segment where we explore not with our tongues, but with our eyes. Anthony, why don't you take it away?
I am in the process of taking over your screen. Get ready to party.
What's this like?
All right, can you see the slideshow?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, John, why don't you tell us what we're seeing on this slide here?
We're looking at in what looks like a serif font. It says Louisiana instead of Lou, two being the number 2, but spelled out, not the number itself, but the spelling of 2, Louisiana.
Yes, the second time we've covered Louisiana on this podcast. And listeners, I failed you. I did put it in bright red Times New Roman font, but I did not remember to make it maximum font size. It looks small on the screen. It looks bad. I hate it. Let's move right on to the next slide and get this shit off my screen now. All right, John, we're looking at the state license plate, which features the state bird, the noble pelican. And then it also in the bottom says Sportsman's Paradise. And then at the top, it has a very 90s font that says Louisiana. It really looks like the font version of the Jazz Cup.
It does.
John, how do you feel about this license plate? Did you see these around?
I saw the license plate all the time. But if you meant that, then yes. But I didn't see the pelicans all that often. But every once in a while. But I'm a huge fan of this license plate. It's kind of got this sunset vibe in the back, kind of dusky, which I think is reminiscent of just the weather there. It's kind of hot, and it gives that feel. And I can't attest to being a sportsman in any sense.
Does
I think
does anyone want to try singing Coolio's "Gangster's Paradise" but with sportsmen in it instead?
Why don't you go ahead?
Been spending most our lives.
No, Anthony started. All right, let's move on.
All right. Well, we can't move on just yet. What is the DNA strand? We talked about one earlier. Why is there a DNA strand on this license plate again?
God.
Do they all have some sort of shared vehicular DNA that we don't know about?
What
CNA.
is that?
I think that these license plates fuck.
Ah, yes.
Well, this one would be faring pretty well at the whole orgy of license plates. I would say this is one of the sexiest license plates we've seen.
Certainly a hottie. I will give you that. I see this on the back end of a car. I'm showing off my back end. You know what I mean? Trying to get some of that car, trying to fuck that car.
All right, well, why don't we move on to the next slide and check out the state quarter. All right, this has
I've never seen these before.
This
That
has-
one on the left.
1812, which is the year Louisiana joined the Union, and then it has the outline of the Louisiana Purchase territory right in the middle of a map of the United States, and then in large letters it says Louisiana Purchase. For some reason, the territory land from the Louisiana Purchase is textured, and it looks like chicken or something, or like a piece of pavement. I really hate that texturing. But they also put on, the noble pelican, the state bird, and then they also had to include a trumpet to represent the state's musical history, and of course, spitting out a couple sweet notes. Now, this is a crowded quarter, much like the French Quarter. John, what do you think of this quarter?
I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan. I'm personally, I can't say I'm a huge fan of a lot of the Louisiana Purchase as a whole. I think Louisiana is
Sure.
cool, but it's no disrespect to it, but it sucks and I hate it. All the other parts of it.
Also, whose land was it to sell? Was it really a purchase?
Very true, Stu.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, John, I've got another question for you here. Obviously, we can't tell who it is, but there's some sort of masked man on the other side of the quarter. I'll give you 3 guesses. Who do you think that is? Because I just don't know enough other New Orleans celebs to take a guess.
I looked him up. I think it's Zachary Levi.
Anthony, is that right? Is that Zach Levi?
Under the mask, and Zachary Levi does not wear a mask when he plays Shazam. That's a bald-faced character. But let me tell you, that's George Washington, the first president of the United States. He will be on every single quarter. But let me tell you,
The mask threw me off.
the Mardi Gras mask does not fit his face particularly well, but luckily that giant neck is offering plenty of real estate for beads.
Good boy.
Guys, Tim and Stu, how do you think this compares to some of the other quarters we've seen?
Tim?
Okay, well, this is one of the worst quarters we've seen. It goes all over the place. It doesn't decide on one idea, and Louisiana is like the smallest ticket item on the quarter. So 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, I think really focusing on the Louisiana Purchase aspect of Louisiana is not good. And I also think that I would rather they just picked one of these 3 concepts and blew it up. I'd love to see a jazz themed quarter. Maybe those notes actually are a song or something. Maybe the pelicans playing the trumpet. There's all these options that they could have had, and they instead decided to do this weird Venom style goo going across the United States landscape. I'm not a fan.
All right, well, let's move on and check out somewhere that we're all a fan of, New Orleans. The city known as the Big Easy, founded in 1718, with an estimated population of 390,845 people. Make that 390,844 people since John left. John, what do you think of this shot? Do you think this is an accurate shot of the skyline of New Orleans?
Yeah, I guess so. This is from this is the downtown. I don't think it's a particularly attractive skyline, but hey, where am I from but Chicago? So, and I know we can all agree on that.
Are there any particular buildings or sites that you remember stomping around during your time?
So freshman year of college, everyone goes down to Bourbon Street. I, however, didn't, because like I said, I don't really like drinking. I don't really like large crowds. I am built differently. I like to be inside in air conditioning most of the time. I stomped around a little bit. I used to, after college, I worked at a restaurant that was just outside of the French Quarter. So you could see me, walking my paycheck to the bank and buying a freaking, I don't know. I guess I was, paying rent with it.
Wow, sick story.
So does the sky form this sort of lip shape like God is kissing the city?
Yeah, sometimes I think many places have, beautiful sunsets, and New Orleans is one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Certainly. And tell me maybe a little bit about this. What is this, a lake? Is this the ocean? What are we looking at?
This is neither of those, Stu, but I'm glad you asked. This is the mighty Mississippi River. The defining waterway, really, of America, I'd say.
I guess, yeah.
And it makes its way through New Orleans in a big way.
Okay, come on.
Let's hit the next slide and zoom in on this pick and go specifically to one location within it. Preservation Hall, an iconic jazz hall in the French Quarter of New Orleans that took off in 1961. The venue didn't serve alcohol and it didn't advertise its shows, but it featured local musicians playing intimate sets with no amplification.
Wait a minute, Anthony didn't advertise its shows. Camden, no announcements, just drops. It started 60 years ago.
Gosh, I mean, I learned from the best.
The venue's website estimates that they host shows 350 nights a year with a rotating ensemble of over 50 local masters of the craft. And the interior looks straight out of, the time that it was built. It looks very, very intimate and very like smoky. And I don't know, it just looks like a beautiful place to see somebody rip a live set. And so many iconic performers have moved through these halls, this one hall specifically, Preservation Hall. Jon, have you ever been to Preservation Hall? I know you said you don't particularly love live music.
I've never been, but I know the name, and it rings in my heart like so many brass instruments. I guess those don't really ring, but
it honks in your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever been to any kind of the jazz clubs locally? I know there are several that are pretty iconic, but this one was the one that really jumped out to me because of its history.
Sure, yeah. Well, there's this, and so there's a place called Frenchman Street, which is of course a street that has a lot of different clubs. It's kind of the music stomping ground. And there would be times when I would maybe get pulled there, usually against my will, or maybe because my friends were doing something and I'd tag along. It's a bummer, when I describe how I am, how I act, what I like to do, it really makes me sound like a boring guy who really doesn't like to have fun.
No, Jon, we can all attest. We all know you personally. You're a great guy and you're a ton of fun. You're a barrel of laughs. I know I sound like I'm ripping into you, but I mean it. I mean it so genuinely, and I completely understand. I feel like after post COVID, I feel like you're ahead of the curve in terms of how people are going to view a lot of like live events and things. So you get to kind of be a hipster about it.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Lucky you.
Tim, Stu, does this look like a venue you would seek out and enjoy?
Oh, heartbeat. I'm a jazz fly till I die. You know that. Put me on the side of a whiskey bottle and give me a backbeat, a 2-3. I'll do whatever you want until 24/7. You dig? Tim?
Yeah, I mean, my butt might hurt from sitting in those chairs. I got a big old hemorrhoid.
You gonna sit on stage?
I don't know. Seems like that kind of venue,
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it's okay if you sit at the piano just to watch.
Let's move on to the next slide.
What?
And check out Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. These are two fixed bridges stretching over Lake Pontchartrain. Jon, is that how it's pronounced? Do you know?
Yes, I do know that that's incorrect. I would probably say it's Pontchartrain.
Pontchartrain. And they're connecting Mandeville to the north and Mediter to the south. Maybe that's flipped. Mediterranean. these are hard places to pronounce for me.
Absolutely.
So that's a suburb of New Orleans. Yes, Metairie, the suburb, Metairie. It's a suburb of New Orleans to the south. So the bridges are held up by 9,500 concrete supports, and the longer bridge is almost 24 miles long, making it one of the longest continuous bridges in the world. Whoa! The first bridge was opened in 1956, replacing a ferry service that used to carry people across. The second bridge was opened in 1969. Nice. The bridges the bridges see an estimated 43,000 cars per day. And you can see it in this shot. These are packed bridges. All 43,000 cars are there. So obviously, this photo just depicts two bridges that kind of stretch into the horizon line and seem to go on forever. John, I'd imagine maybe driving to school, you would ride across these bridges. Have you ever spent some time there?
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time on this bridge. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm on a bridge, I'm thinking only about what would happen if the car flipped off of it.
Yeah.
So for 24 beautiful miles, I have my hand on my seatbelt. I've got my other hand on the door handle. And I'm loving every minute of it. This is, it's not scary to be on a bridge for 24 miles. And if you, in this image, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it looks like there's an aquatic monster in the background.
Huh?
A Nessie of some kind.
I'm seeing
but of course,
some sort of Nessie. Yeah. What is anyone else clocking this Nessie? I've been putting my blue blockers on and off, thinking maybe it was a smudge on the lenses, but it's there.
That's the Big Easy rising up from the depths. Anyway,
wow.
I put this in there because this, of course, looks like something from like a Godzilla movie that would be easily destroyed, or maybe like a Fast and the Furious franchise, set piece. This is a very interesting thing. It just doesn't look real. It's strange. It's really odd. Tim, how do you feel about this bridge work?
Well, you said it was a fixed bridge. We're really glad it's not broken anymore.
Okay.
Why don't we move on to the next slide and check out something we kind of touched on earlier, the Tabasco factory.
Who is this man in the top right?
That's the LA Beast versus the Gallon of Tabasco challenge. And of course, in this slide,
even a challenge. That's not.
In this slide, LA stands for Louisiana.
Yes. Nice, dude.
But yes, the man can and will and did drink a gallon of Tabasco.
Is that I get that is challenging to do, but what have we come to, guys, as a society? And John, I know you're political, so maybe steer away from this one if you don't want to get some DMs on Twitter. But what have we come to as a culture when our greatest challenge is having this guy chug a whole gallon of hot sauce? And what? We can't even have Biden stand up straight? I don't know what's going on.
Tabasco has had a home on Avery Island since 1868. The sauce was invented using red peppers. I had the inventor's name, but somehow it got deleted.
Tabasco?
Yeah, Jeff Tabasco. But it was invented by this guy who had some seeds from Central America, and he planted them, and then he used the seeds to make a sauce, and he patented the sauce in 1870, and it quickly became a hot sauce.
Dude,
today
why are you dying on this slide? What's happening?
Today, the factory offers tours to teach visitors about the history and production process behind the brand. And wow, does that tour look exciting? Look at this conveyor belt situation. That's got to be a million or billion bottles of Tabasco sauce, right, John?
Yeah, I think you're totally right there. Can I make one joke and then one, I would say maybe humorous observation?
I guess.
You want to start now? What do you think, man? This is kind of a serious podcast.
Just real quick, and then we can get back to this. My joke is, you asked about what America is coming to earlier. The NSFW version is, what am I coming to?
Right. Yes. What aren't they coming to? You ask me. Let's get some hardcore sex in Marvel films. Anyway,
my humorous observation is, when I lived in New Orleans, there would be bumper stickers that would say, "This is LA, not LA." And I'm sure if you guys could parse the difference there, it's
I guess.
I know a lot of people that plop into New Orleans and think, now, am I in Los Angeles right here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of stars down there as well. Zachary Levi, etc.
Jon, have you ever been to Avery Island? Are you a big fan of Tabasco?
I unfortunately have never been to Avery Island, which is a regret in my regret list. But I love Tabasco. I think it's a great hot sauce. Definitely one of the top hot sauces.
Wow. How about Louisiana hot sauce? When those two go head to head, which one do you put at the top?
Louisiana.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong hot sauce. Tim, Stu, does this look like a tour that would appeal to you?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally snag a free bottle at the end. Go home, maybe make my own sauce.
Hell yeah.
My favorite part of a tour, going home after.
Yeah, that's the best part.
So I do have to say, there's a really great image, and I encourage listeners to go search this up. If you look up the Tabasco factory, there's an image that's a still from a news segment where they're showing this newscaster the inside of like a barrel that's aging Tabasco, and it is a massive vat. Like you could definitely submerge a Jared Leto Joker in there. It's huge. Unfortunately, the image size didn't fit into this format, so I couldn't have put it in the slideshow. There's only room for one smaller picture within a picture on a slide. So anyhow, listeners, check that out. It's a giant vat full of Tabasco. It's more Tabasco than you've ever seen in one place. Let's move on to the next slide.
Did we need to hear that?
I guess you can cut that out, Camden. That wasn't particularly interesting,
Keep it in,
but I
Kevin.
thought it was cool.
You keep it. Big vat.
All right, let's move on to Fontainebleau State Park. Fontainebleau State Park. It's a 2,800 acre state park located in St. Tammany Parish, featuring camping sites, a beach, a fishing pond, and a 31-mile trail for hiking, biking, and horseback riding. The park was opened in 1942, and it looks beautiful until you read that it was a sugarcane plantation in 1829 until at least 1840. And it was documented that it held 153 enslaved people, including 57 children younger than the age of 10. Oh. Now, I didn't include that intentionally, but it's impossible to include the major sites of Louisiana without intentionally or unintentionally including a plantation. Plantations are all throughout Louisiana. This is one that I actually had no idea. It kind of Trojan horsed me. I just was captured by the beauty of the park, because it's not like some shitty, giant estate, with just like a big porch and like sprawling fields. It's like a gorgeous, weird, kind of interesting, rooty beach with like a nice sunset in the distance and almost like a very specific type of tree. I can't put my finger on this type of tree. Anyhow, Jon, have you ever spent any time at this state park?
I haven't. Another regret. That picture is making me really yearn, though. I'll tell you that much.
Were you much of a bog liver?
Pardon?
Yeah, I know that didn't really come out of my mouth well either. A bog liver? Did you ever live in a bog? Did you ever do some bog living? Did you ever enjoy the bayou?
I took a science class about the bayou. I was terrible, and my professors hated me because I talked during class, and I really didn't I should have paid better attention. But we went on this field trip where we went all the way down to the delta at the very bottom tip of Louisiana. It's called the Birdfoot Delta. And that was my bayou time. That was my biggest bayou time. And I got a huge sunburn, and it was great.
Big bayou time.
Wow. Well, aside from its horrific racist past, Tim, Stu, what do you think of this? What do you think of this beach?
Tim?
I mean, those trees are like, the trees are crazy. They're like kind of like beach stalactites, or what is it? What stalagmites, stalactites?
Mites, because tights hold on to the ceiling, as Camden once taught us. Remember father's words, Tim.
Yeah, I'll never forget daddy's words.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy any sort of state park that is like a place that you can only find right there. And this is like a particular biome that I have never seen before, or I assume is this the only kind of place you can find this. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't go running on this beach because you're going to trip on these roots. Let's move on to the next slide and take a trip to the old state capitol, located in Baton Rouge. This building was originally erected in 1852 to serve as the new state capitol, as politicians were scared about the concentration of power in New Orleans, which was already the state's most populous city. In 1862, during the Civil War, Union troops seized the Capitol and used it to garrison black Union soldiers until it was ultimately abandoned. 20 years later, in 1882, it was completely rebuilt and revamped with signature additions like the iconic stained glass window and the iconic stained glass dome pictured here in the bottom corners. It remained the state capitol building until the current building was erected in 1932, and in the 1990s the building was converted into the Museum of Political History, which hosts theatrical productions and an annual ball. This building really looks like a castle. It's referred to as like the old gray castle back in the day. But I had to include these stained glass windows and domed situations here because they're absolutely stunning. And the main photo doesn't capture that at all. It just looks like a very bland building, and until you get the light shining through. So, John, I imagine you haven't been to Baton Rouge, but I know you enjoy a good stained glass window and stained glass dome. You like dome, John. How do you feel about this particular dome?
I love it, and you're completely right to categorize me that way. I like to consider myself a stain stan, and that's for both the glass and the band.
Oh, okay, cool. Actually, I take that yuck back.
Yeah, I don't mean it in any other context. I don't know. I have some ideas what you might mean, Stu, but I'm not going to even dignify those with words.
I just want to say, I've never been to Baton Rouge, but it is something I have a lot of experience with. I have played a D&D character who's a baton-wielding rogue, so not too far off.
Well, if it ever goes under, they can always just sell it as a medieval times.
I thought it looked like a shitty medieval times too, but it seems maybe it's important to them.
It kind of looks like a Mario castle.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You could jump into a painting inside. Anyhow, let's move on to the final slide unless anybody has anything else to say about these stained glass windows.
It's been a while.
All right, let's move on to the final slide. John, care to break down what we're seeing on this slide here?
This is bringing me back to, my days in New Orleans for sure. I mean, we're looking at a king cake here. And like I said earlier, it often will have a plastic baby inside of it. I can't say whether this is plastic or not, but this is one of the more famous babies, I'd say. The Boss baby.
Right, yes. But it is a little bit different. Anthony has put sort of a sexy mask on him.
Stu.
It's a Mardi Gras mask.
I'm not. The baby's got like little pouty lips. It's played by Alec Baldwin. I don't know why it looks.
It is. You're right that it's a hot baby.
Don't call it
Oh my
sexy.
God.
It's
Jesus.
the Boss baby is sexy. Okay.
Oh.
That's not a crazy thing to say.
Stu, I agree with you, and I think what's attractive is not that it's a baby, but that it's a boss.
Exactly. Yes, it's the power, not the person.
Yeah.
And John, do you want to just say what it says down there?
It says, "See you later, baby."
But
Hell yeah.
does later look a little weird to you?
Oh my God, you're so right, and I didn't even catch that. It's listeners. It says later, but the LA is in caps, alluding to kind of some jokes we made earlier.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, that's the end of my slideshow presentation. So out of the runtime of Shazam, Tim,
yeah.
what was the actual runtime of that movie? 132 minutes?
That's right.
All right, John, out of 132 minutes or beyond, as you've established, how many minutes does my slide fare?
I mean, I'm going to give it about 140, and this is, on the second watch, we're staying in the theater a little longer. We're talking about, differences in the first viewing versus second viewing, and we're having a great time.
For sure. Wow. Congrats, Anthony. A huge win.
Wow.
Wow.
A huge win indeed, but we've got to move on to our next regular segment where we explore not with our mouths or with our eyes, but with our noses. And Camden, I need you to prepare a sound because I need to welcome you to the Elder Statesman's olfactory. Wow, and welcome to the Elder Statesman's olfactory. And what would you have it? We have a new machine to try out. John, step into a portmanteau of smell and memory, a machine I call the Smellery. The concept is simple. The machine will prompt you with a potential memory. It's your job to associate this memory with a smell. Are you ready?
Sure.
It's going to be very easy, very brief. You're on your favorite street in the Big Easy. What does it smell like?
Oh man, it's alternating between the beautiful smell of French and Southern food and the pungent aroma of old trash.
What kind of smells are you pulling out of that cuisine?
Maybe the salt of a deep fried food, or the roux of a beautiful stew, like we discussed earlier.
I'm sorry, a what?
Stop.
Oh, a stew of a roux. What is this place that you're imagining yourself at?
Well, the beauty of New Orleans is that I'm kind of imagining anywhere, because really on any street at any time there could be the most gifted chef who's also, just a child, or really the oldest, most disgusting. Just because everyone is so gifted in New Orleans,
Right.
And
a child chef.
We can expect the unexpected.
Oh, sure, a baby cake child chef. Okay, yeah.
You smell something so great, and you're like, who could this, esteemed chef be that has certainly traveled around the globe, and,
Right.
and it's only a school age child.
My God.
That's really, really incredible. Okay, so it looks like the smeller is actually about to give you a new prompt. So you're on your least favorite street in the Big Easy. What does it smell like?
Ooh.
Wow. It smells like heartbreak.
Oh.
Ouch.
Because my least favorite street is no street in particular, because I love the spatial plane that we all live on. But sometimes streets are places of heartbreak, and I was no stranger to heartbreak in New Orleans. I both dished it and got it dished on me.
On the same street? The breakup street?
Yes. Yeah, it was hard when someone lived away from that street, because I would have a long trip to reflect. If I wanted to reflect, I would have to travel. But
what is that smell? Can you describe it?
Sure. It's it's flowers blooming. It's cypress tree bark doing what it of course does. It's it's the sounds of Juvenile and Lil Wayne coming out of a car.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yes, those do smell.
right. Well, those are smells to me because I have that brain disease where colors are
Synesthesia.
No,
exactly.
it's the big synesthesia.
Wow.
Well, it looks like the smellery has just one more question for you, John, before you get to step out of there forever. You drive out of the city to experience some nature. What does it smell like, and where are you going?
That's such a great question. I'm smelling clean air. You know, the air of the pastoral countryside. I'm smelling history. I'm smelling generations of toil. I'm smelling dreams, failures. I'm smelling America.
And how different is that from the smell of your least favorite and your favorite streets in the Big Easy?
Good cue.
That is a really good cue. God. I don't think you're gonna like this answer, but I think they are all threads on the quilt of the human condition.
I don't hate that answer, but the smellery might because it is a binary machine. But that's totally fine because Anthony, Stu, do you have any questions for John about the smells of Louisiana? It seems the machine is all out of energy.
Look, just in terms of time, I think we can't ask any questions, but John, I don't know, between your two nostrils, which is your favorite?
Left. I have allergies, but the right one keeps getting plugged up.
Damn, been there, fella, been there.
Wow. Well, you know what? Let's rate this segment out of the 132 minutes of the runtime of Shazam starring Zachary Levi.
And this is I don't even want this to be a ranking of the smellery because I enjoy this experience, but I'm going to give it about 100 minutes because by the third watch, I don't want to watch the whole thing anymore.
Okay, so you're watching Shazam back to back to back with these segments.
Yeah. And while I do enjoy, I can appreciate the work that, the cast and the crew put in. I've already seen it twice.
For sure.
Well, you're about to see it a fourth time because we've got to move on to our next regular segment where we explore not with our mouths or with our eyes or with our noses, but with our ears. Stu, take it away.
Yes. That's right. If our guest today went to medical school and grew a wicked ponytail, he may have produced this righteous tune. Camden, hit it.
Just need a little brain salad surgery. Got too cute of my insecurity. I've been in the wrong place, but it must have been the right time. I've been in the right place.
All right, that was Right Place, Wrong Time by Dr. John, who was born in New Orleans in 1941. By the way, Anthony is a huge graphic novel fan, so I feel like I have to clarify that this musician is not, in fact, Dr. John Osterman, a.k.a. Dr. Manhattan. Anthony, chill out.
Oh, thank God.
Sorry. John Rebenak Jr. grew up loving guitar and jazz in the Big Easy. His family encouraged their son to embrace his German, Irish, Spanish, English, and French heritage, and the mix of cultures influenced his playing style as a young man. He was playing guitar and working as a brothel manager in the early 60s, rambling and playing until one of his fingers was shot off in Tennessee, and then he transferred to playing bass. Eventually, he migrated to L.A. and became a first-call session musician as part of the fabled Wrecking Crew. If you don't know, the Wrecking Crew is essentially this backing band who recorded all the backing music for some of the biggest albums of all time in the 70s and 80s. Glenn Campbell, certainly a member. Dr. John, known as a bassist, percussionist, just a weirdo. But he recorded hits for all sorts of famous people, Sonny and Cher, Frank Zappa, all these other crazy 70s folks who considered him one of the greats. But eventually he did do some solo work. His debut album, Gree Gree, is now ranked 143rd on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time list, and his shows combining voodoo, Mardi Gras symbolism cemented him as a consistent and funky performance artist for the next 50 years or so. He performed pretty regularly in Louisiana and around the South for 50 fucking years. It's pretty crazy. But interestingly, I couldn't find a solid number of children that he had. I looked on his Wikipedia and it just said that he had many children. And I was like, wow, how many? And the only thing we could find is this quote that from the New York Times interview where he stated that he had a lot. So, I don't know how many that means, but my man. So, Jon, how does it feel listening to another Dr. Jon? Do you know him? Does he feel like New Orleans to you?
I am a huge Dr. Jon fan.
Nice.
Huge. The guy rocks. Rest in peace to a true king.
Yeah.
One thing that I like about him is he's made up some words that are now pretty famous. I think really anyone that makes up words is pretty cool, just in general.
Yeah, epic win sauce.
But so well said. And I I believe he came up with the word Bonnaroo, which is now, of course, a festival in Tennessee that people go to.
Interesting. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Everything I saw online, like his live shows were these like giant sort of like weird voodoo, half performance, half like almost like gospel-y speech to the crowd. It just looked like really like a fun place to get fucked up and listen to like really funky music.
There's I don't know if you guys have seen The Last Waltz, the band's documentary, the concert documentary, but Dr. Jon plays Such a Night on there, and you can tell that he is so gone off drugs.
Yeah.
At least I would imagine.
No, he had a serious heroin problem for the first 40 years of his life.
Sure.
Lived until he was like 80 though. So like, I don't know. What does that tell you?
But yeah, he's made some great music.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to another artist from New Orleans specifically. This next guy, he loves to tickle the ivories and suck down those berries. Hit it, Camden.
I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill.
That was, of course, Fats Domino playing his hit Blueberry Hill. Me personally, I would prefer a Strawberry Hill or maybe a Brambleberry Crisp Hill. Just some thoughts. Fats was born and raised outside New Orleans, and his first spoken language was actually Louisiana Creole, which he credits as to giving him a very particular singing style later in his life. He learned to play the piano as a little boy, and by 14, he was jamming in New Orleans clubs where he was discovered and asked to eventually work in a backing band, earning $3 a week, which is, fat stacks back then. Eventually, he was signed to Imperial Records, and his first recorded title, The Fat Man, is considered by many to be the first rock and roll single ever released. It sold 1 million copies in a year, and it was the first of its kind to do anything even close to those sort of numbers. Fats Domino, a sort of like enormous star of his time, not just his waistline, but also his incredible sales. Also, by the way, Fats Domino, not really that big of a dude. You look at the pictures, I feel like he must not have loved that name. It must have really hurt because he just sort of looks like an average guy, but so say we all. By 1955, 5 of his records had sold more than 1 million copies, being certified gold. And between 1955 and 1960, he had 11 top 10 U.S. pop hits. And during the full span of his career, it was estimated that he sold more than 110 million albums. And that was just while he was alive. So that doesn't count any of the time after his death. So like literally, it's hard to even like compare him to other artists. I think one of the most interesting things that I found about him was like how the other artists that Fats created a genre for. Very famously, Elvis Presley declared Fats Domino to be the actual king of rock and roll, and once famously proclaimed that Domino was like a huge influence on everything that he did and everything that he will do, which I think is like a very cool, like, yeah, give him his flowers kind of moment. For a guy who like invented the genre, sold unbelievably well, to just sort of like be a little bit more forgotten under old shaky leg himself. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Fats Domino?
Well, I really don't have many opinions because I haven't really listened to it all that much, but the influence is awesome and it's definitely there. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, really sort of invented that rock and roll 50s, like high energy style, a lot of people would think. Jon, any feelings on the piano tickler?
Fats Domino is great. One cool thing about living in New Orleans for a while was just kind of learning more about American musical history and just learning that most most musical forms in this country were invented by Black people.
Yeah.
And so to see Fats Domino and there are other Black musicians who are credited as co-creators of rock and roll. But yeah, I mean, that fast piano that's Fats, baby.
Yeah, that is Fats, baby. And I think it's also arguable. I mean, a lot of people have said this, but like jazz, and I think you can also count rock and roll, and also like more recently hip hop, are like the only really art forms that are uniquely American in their creation. They are like, they were started by people here who, like that is they weren't influenced from somewhere else. We didn't bring them over at some point and then change them up. They are like very much American art forms. And that I think is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, the reason I kind of chuckled when you brought up Elvis, giving him some credit, is because Elvis specifically, and a lot of white artists at the time, built their entire sounds that were massive commercial successes by stealing music or ripping off music from Black artists who they gave little to no credit to. And I just think that Fats Domino, it's amazing to hear that. Obviously his music's incredible. He is an icon, and a lot of people may find it kind of boring just because he's one of the most imitated sounds like that in American music. But I just think, often imitated, never really, lived up to in terms of impact on the industry. So I'm happy to hear that he did get his commercial success and flowers while he was alive.
Yeah, for sure.
Seemed like he lived a long life too. I'm seeing a lot of like, fairly recent pictures of him.
I want to say he lived
but
until like the 80s or 90s. He was like one of those guys. And I feel like this is true about so many old jazz people, is that they're just like, will live to be 100 years old and will still be playing incredibly well until the day they die. Like, it'll be the last thing that goes.
Dude, he lived until 2017.
What?
Born in 1928 and died in 2017. That's incredible.
Shout out Fats Domino, king. Domino's Pizza, not so great. Let's go ahead and move on to the back half of the sound segment. This is Vox Populi, John, where I will talk to you about some classic destinations in your college town, and you're going to make the first sound that you associate with that place. No. Okay. We'll also be hearing the local people's voice by reading some reviews from locals online. So thank you to TripAdvisor for their top 15 things to see in New Orleans list, and a special message to TripAdvisor. Please sponsor this segment, you hog hollering bucktooth bird people. John, the first one we're going to talk about is the Carousel Bar. I don't know. You said that you weren't a big fan of drinking. However, let's talk about it. Here's a critic's review. If you loved a carousel as a kid, you'll fall for this charming, historic haunt in the French Quarter's Hotel Molion. Here, a 360-degree bar and an expertly crafted cocktail send you right round, baby, right round. So what's the first sound you think of when you hear Carousel Bar?
Well, I'm probably thinking about that classic carousel sound, the do whatever. You know how carousels go. I've never been to a carousel bar.
Yeah.
But I have heard of it.
Well, it does seem like it's a very touristy destination, which online there was a lot of negative feedback. It seems like New Orleans only has two types of bars, and it's like bars that are still underground enough to be cool that locals go to, and bars that eventually get a write-up by some guy who, like, quotes, will spin you right round, and then it's like, well, fuck that place. I don't want to go there with my friends. But yeah, I mean, is there like a bar? I know you said you didn't like drinking, but was there a place that you felt like, oh, if I had to go out for a night, this is where I'd go?
Sure. Well, my local bar was a place called Snake and Jake's, which was, I guess you'd call it a dive bar. And I did have a good time there. When I would go, it was there were it was lit by red lights, and there was cheap beer, as dive bars are wont to have. And yeah, it was fun. It was, as someone who doesn't drink a ton, I enjoy bars more for the friendships I make, or maybe I don't even make them if I just go with friends. I don't make friends with people I'm already friends with. That would be, well, maybe strengthen the bonds of friendship.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. You got to remember, John, sometimes friends help us lift that carpet up and sweep out what's under it. But let's talk about a 1-star review from Jerry on Google about the Carousel Bar. Jerry said, when I went to order a drink, Travis was straight up rude to me because I ordered Jaeger when they don't have Jaeger. Do you think that's true about bars in New Orleans, John? Do you think they have or do not have Jaeger?
You know, that is such an interesting question. I think that's completely right. I don't think, or wait, what's the framing? I don't think they have Jaeger. I don't really think that people drink that anymore.
Well, Jerry from Google does, and he gave him a 1-star review over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his review, by the way, enormously long. So long. It's crazy long. And that's an early line in it, but the review is pages long. He has a lot to say. Let's move on to another location that, John, maybe you have visited. It seems like a peaceful little spot for a contemplative young man such as yourself. It's called the Singing Oak or the Chime Tree. This is it's this tree that provides shade and coordinated melodies from a beautiful wind chime system that's hung within its giant oak structure by local artist Jim Hart. The melodious tree towers in the heart of City Park, just down the road from the New Orleans Museum of Art. Have you been to the park? Have you seen this tree? How do you feel about the old Singing Oak?
I've been to City Park. I love City Park. It's a beautiful park. And if I had to think about the first sound that accompanies it, it would probably be bong.
Because what? You're like smoking Chiba up in the park? What are you doing?
That is, yep.
Ouch. God, those hurt like arrows to my fucking heart.
That was, of course, how chimes sound.
Anthony just made a disgusting bong sound. That was so gross.
Wait, you made that with your mouth? I thought that was a Camden.
No, that was
sound.
Anthony, do that again. Do that again.
I need another sip of water. It's a classic party trick.
Water.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's see.
Classic Anthony Rossi mouth Foley.
Damn, yeah, we got the Foley in the goddamn pad. Well, a bong, a chime making a bong. It seems like this is a pretty popular place that like 6 months out of the year has all these wind chimes and bottles in it. So when wind hits it just right, it plays like not quite a tune, but some sort of like very fun, light, airy melody that locals seem to enjoy. However, John, Selena on Google really did not enjoy this place whatsoever. She gave it 1 star, and her review says, the section of the park where the tree is located is overrun by rude joggers and cyclists that seem as if they think they own the land. It's called City Park, not private gym.
Selena has a point there.
So, did you ever work out in City Park?
I did. I would go on my bike rides through City Park.
Okay.
And I would do this thing. I guess I would have to apologize to Selena because I would find a person in the park who was enjoying themselves, and I would bike around them over and over.
Sure.
Until they were really bothered by me.
A circling shark, yes.
Yeah, and if they would say, what are you doing? I would say, I'm exercising.
Well, as we do know, that park is treated by some as a private gym. That's going to be the end of the sound segment. We brought up a couple of groovy folks, brought up a couple of less than groovy locations. But overall, John, how many minutes out of the 132 minutes of Shazam's runtime would you give me? And remember, this is the 4th time you're watching the movie in a row.
Right. I think that this is going to be 264 minutes.
Jesus,
and
what?
Holy shit.
That is because...
a double watch?
Yes, well, that's because I fell asleep.
Okay. And the movie started again. I see. Wow, okay. Well, I feel pretty darn proud of that. Thank you.
I mean, with all those minutes, we've achieved farther than a perfect episode, watched it multiple times. But we've got to move on to our next regular segment where we explore Louisiana with our hearts. We're going to go around in the circle, starting with Anthony to John to Stuart, then to myself, to talk about how Louisiana makes us feel. Anthony?
This very month And in fact, a couple weeks before we recorded this marks the 5-year anniversary of my trip to New Orleans. And time flies. It feels like it was just last year, or it feels like it was 10 years ago. It's one of the most fun experiences of my life. I really had several moments where I was thinking, oh my God, I could live here one day. This is paradise. I also had a ton of moments where I wasn't thinking anything except I'm drunk as fuck.
Nice.
I definitely want to go back and play it a little less touristy with my visit. I certainly definitely want some of those gross, disgusting, alcohol binges. But I really do want to dive more into that local scene, music scene, and, food scene, and some of the natural beauty that the state has to offer, because I really do think that so much of my time was spent in dingy bars and clubs. Shout out to the Swamp.
Shout out to
I
the
will
Swamp.
say, so many of those experiences feel so lost because they just feel very gross in the COVID world. One of the major highlights of that trip was my friend losing his ID and us thinking that he would not be able to drink the entire rest of the trip because he didn't have his ID. And we retraced our steps and found it lying face up on the floor of a bar, and we're able to grab it off the floor and carry on with our time. And that would never happen. That feels disgusting now. But I will say, some of my favorite meals are from that trip as well. And I really think about it all the time. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. It's a state that has a lot of culture, a lot of heart. I can't let it off the hook, though. Almost every site, and they were listed as tourist attractions, were plantation properties that still exist in the state today. One of the major town squares is Jackson Square, where there's a statue of Andrew Jackson, one of the most execrable presidents in our nation's history. Just a truly disgusting man with a disgusting legacy of hatred. And the people of New Orleans want it gone. A large population that lives in that city wants that statue removed and has fought to get it removed, and has faced police violence during their protests. So Louisiana is still a southern state with a Confederate history, but so frequently what I lambast states for during the segment, and perhaps it's just because I don't have as much of a relationship with them, is the fact that they don't grow beyond that legacy of hatred. I will say that in the modern world, New Orleans feels palpably inviting. It feels very communal. It feels like a city that has open arms. And if that exists within Louisiana, that definitely gives me a bunch of hope, because Louisiana is a red Confederate state, slave-owning state that has grown into this genuinely loving and diverse community that is one of the best places on earth. So I think that it's definitely a state I want to revisit. It's a state where you cannot ignore its history or give it a pass. But there's just so much that comes from there. My final thought is that I saw Big Frida live since the last time we recorded about Louisiana. And it was a life-changing experience, and I'm not even being hyperbolic. Big Frida is one of the best live performers ever. I cannot stress to you enough how much you need to see Big Frida live if you have the opportunity. I would consider buying someone a ticket if they were on the fence about going. It's really just, it's an unmissable experience. And shout out to Big Frida. I love you forever.
Well, New Orleans was one of the first places that got to work at dismantling racist statues. And that was while I was still there. And so one of the main traffic circles in New Orleans was once named Lee Circle, after the Confederate General Robert E. Lee. and it has since been. I actually don't know if they've renamed it. I think they might have, but anyway, it's not Lee Circle anymore. And I think that I think I'm more responding to Anthony than I am talking about my own experiences in Louisiana. But I think that while I agree with certain parts, I would say that all of America is tainted by its racism, not just the South.
Certainly.
And that New Orleans specifically has, the French Quarter has a long queer history, and there's a much more nuanced racial history in New Orleans. New Orleans was one of the only places that broke the American racial binary. There were free people of color in New Orleans.
Hell yeah.
So that kind of changed the caste system as it is in America, which is not, obviously there was still slave trading in New Orleans. It was still a place where that happened. But yeah, I think that living in New Orleans, I learned a lot about, because people in Chicago they're nice when you get to know them, but they're not nice to strangers. At least I've found. And people in New Orleans are really nice to the stranger. That I learned how to just say hello to people on the street, which people do not do here. And it kind of gives me anxiety to even think about doing it here. But in New Orleans, it's just normal, or at least it was normal for me. And that's nice. It's nice to acknowledge your fellow citizen. It does wonders for your mental health. And yeah, New Orleans will always have a special place in my heart. I feel like I became who I was there. Not to get blue here, but I did L*SE my V** virginity there.
Yikes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I probably could talk about New Orleans for a while in that way, but I think that it's unique, and there are a lot of places in America that are similar, and New Orleans is singular, and it has contributed immensely to American culture as we know it. And I think that I hope that it sticks around.
Hell yeah!
Although I think that there's a pretty good chance that it won't.
It's a great way to end things, and I want to bring up the fact that with all of the combined minutes that we were awarded over this episode, we ended up with 641 total minutes, and that's 10 and a half hours of watching Shazam with Zachary Levi. Just some really exciting stuff when you really think about it and how far we've come as a culture and as a people. But much like Shazam, New Orleans is also a place that it seems like will have a finite end at some point. Just with global warming and the fact that we don't seem to care about any of it, it is a place that seems unsustainable in the next 50 to 100 years. So I'd love to see how we figure that out, but I don't know. It's sort of the feeling that maybe this place and this culture, the culture won't disappear, but the place has to, according to current timelines, which is very scary, but also makes you really I feel really lucky that I got to experience New Orleans the way I did. I got to do a lot of that touristy stuff that Anthony talked about. And then I got to, ride on a float with these people who have been doing it for 60 years or whatever. And they I was just in these suburban homes with these people all just getting drunk in a backyard. And there were 600 people from the neighborhood there. And I didn't know anybody, and everyone was very nice. And this old lady just kept feeding me chicken salad, and she was so cool. And rest in peace to her. She's the sweetest old lady, and she passed, I think, last year. And I miss her desperately, and her chicken salad was the best thing I've ever had. And it's kind of like New Orleans in a way where it's normally, I don't know if I'd be that into chicken salad. I don't think I'd normally be into that giant street party drinking thing. I don't know if I'd really be into loud music everywhere and people having a good time. And I feel like I'm more of a Jon Dale than maybe a party animal, as they call it. But I do think that you're right in saying that New Orleans is a place that is singular in not just its culture, not just its people, but just its whole vibe. Everything about it is nowhere else on Earth. It's got French aspects to it, but it's definitely not France. It's got Southern aspects to it, but it's not quite the rest of the South. It's got America, but it's not quite that. It's Haitian. It's everything. It's like so many different cultures just smushed together. And the thing that you get out of it is so unlike the rest of them, and so, in a lot of ways, better, that like, the idea that it does have an endpoint at some point is very, very sad, but also heartening to know that hopefully, I don't know, this thing came out of like a really bad circumstance. New Orleans, this beautiful icon came out of essentially slavery and all these cultures just getting shoved together and people having to learn how to live and thrive in a new location. But hopefully, adversity brings about better change in the future. And I mean, yeah, you're 100% right. This is a place that will always be stained with the blood of 400 fucking years of oppression that still goes on to this very day. And that's a lot of America, but this even more specifically, a lot of the buildings that people in chains walk through are still there on that river. They're still all there. You can walk past them and it's still haunting. But I do respect them for not, at least in New Orleans when I went, not covering any of that up and not trying to tear down those locations and built like nice new apartments for downtown. It's like those are still these empty shipping warehouses that at least I from what I can see, aren't really in use, but are still like holding a solid memory inside them. And I just think it's a beautiful place with so many different contrasts that it's impossible to really capture in an episode of a podcast. So it's a good thing that this podcast, much like New Orleans, will have a second chance in the future, but eventually will be flooded by the sins of our fathers.
Wait, real quick. Sorry to interrupt. What float were you on? What parade?
Oh God, this was the big one. So this is this was the day before. It might have been on Tuesday itself. I know there's like 3 weeks of parades, but I was on not the Hotep. What is it? It's like, God, I wish I could remember. The Knights of, it's not the Hotep one. Yeah, I wasn't on that float. But it was like the Knights of Columbus or something or another, whatever it was. Like I was on a float for like 7 hours throwing beads and drinking. And like, I was soaked in sweat and I couldn't walk. And I was like leaning against a bag of stuffed animals the whole time because I was just like too drunk to think.
Cool.
And throwing beads it's the best experience I've ever had, just like in public. And I'll always thank New Orleans for being a one-of-a-kind place where you can have that kind of experience. So thank you, N.O.
Hell yeah.
Really glad that the bridge is fixed. If you have any questions or concerns about the great 50 states of the Statesman, reach out to us on Twitter at StatesmanPod, on Facebook and Instagram at Statesman Podcast, or by email at statesmanpodcast@gmail.com. Please like, rate, and share the show with your friends because it helps the show out a lot. And be sure to check us out on statesmanpodcast.com. Jon, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you all. This was fun. I haven't been so social in like a year.
Yeah.
I feel kind of giddy in a way that I haven't felt.
Jon, we love having you here. You're a great friend to us all. You're such a fun guy and so funny. And like one of the shows that I look back on fondly in the year pre-COVID was the show that you put on at the Crowd Theater. RIP the Crowd Theater, the current iteration of it or the previous iteration of it. But your night of music. That was such a fun show. What a great program. And also your writing's tremendous. I can't wait to hear you plug it up. But Jon, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing. You're a sweet boy, and we love to have you, Jon. But for all of those listeners who made it to the end here, where can they find you online? What are you working on?
I'm no longer a comedian because, and you guys are going to find this hard to believe, listeners, because I know you've been laughing along to the jokes we've all been making, and me in particular. But I'm not a comedian anymore. I've kind of changed my tune, and I'm more of a journalist now. So I'm working on a few stories that, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, will be coming out soon. You can find me on Twitter at Dale, Jon Dale. That's no H in that, John. That's just a Jon. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Look up your previous articles too. You have some great work published, from previous years. That you definitely have linked on your Twitter. So
Yes.
go check that out.
Yes, absolutely.
Anthony, you got anything to plug?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at IMARossi. Check out the website. Listen to our back catalog. We've touched on Louisiana once with Frank Spiro, and then we touched on it once again with Frank Spiro when we did it New Orleans versus New York City, which was a very, very fun, very fun, silly episode. And shout out once again to Frank. I'm still wearing your headphones in this moment. Thank you for leaving them in our apartment. I will never give them back. You don't want them back at this point.
Wow.
Stu?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Stuart Highcar, StuartHicar, like you're saying hi to a car. Twitter obviously blowing up as ever, and on Instagram, I recently got the first photo of Joe Biden wearing high-ass shorts. So if you want to see what his thighs look like, and you definitely do, you got to check my Insta out. But yeah, definitely want to throw some energy over to that statesmanpodcast.com, where you can click on any state in the nation and listen to our content on it, or any of the incredible bonus episodes. Tim did a fucking great job on that. But Camden, do you have anything to plug?
Twitter and Instagram at @CamStacy_. That's CAMSTACEY _. No announcements, just drops, and might I say, some pretty hefty drops as of this episode release. So
Hefty.
come fuck with me.
You can find me on Twitter at infectedbutt, infected_butt, and on Instagram at YUNG_garlic. And on behalf of my junior statesman Anthony Rossi and Stuart Highcar, I'm your other statesman Tim Ferrari. State positive.
These days, what's going to get you canceled first? Loving the boss or loving the baby?
Okay, Tim, the cat is a tuxedo cat, black and white, I estimate. We'll find out in the future, perhaps.
Next time on Statesman.
Security. I've been in the wrong place, but it must have been the right time. I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong song. I've been in the right vein, but it seems like a wrong on. I've been in the right world, but it seems like a wrong. Sneaking, peeping, hiding out down the street. See my life shaking with every who I meet. Refried confusion is making itself clear. Wonder which way do I go to get on out of here? Cause I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time. And I done said the right thing, but it must have used the wrong